Good evening, everybody. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on May 28th, 2024, and ask our city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Present.
Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Bray?
Present. I'll ask Commissioner Smith to do our invocation, and then we'll remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we thank you for your grace and goodness. May your face continually shine upon us so that your ways may be known amongst our communities.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, none this evening.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is a new employee introduction. Amy?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and City Clerk. So new is relative. Taylor Morshing has been recently promoted. He's been with us since 2015, but I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity to kind of, introduce him to you as our new Assistant Director over Recreation and Events. But for a little bit of background, because I don't think we did introductions when he started, Taylor is actually originally from Aberdeen, South Dakota. He came to us after doing a stint in Greeley, Colorado in the recreation department there. He started as a recreation specialist for us in 2015 and oversaw most of our adult leagues, youth leagues, and aquatics. That's kind of where his focus was. In 2020, he was promoted to superintendent over recreation and maintenance. And then we dissolved that position, or we separated those positions in 21. So then he became the superintendent over recreation. And then most recently, as of May, we promoted him to the assistant director of recreation. He has 4 full-time employees and about 45 seasonal staff in the summer. And that team oversees all of the recreation, the events, our pool operations, farmers market, pretty much anything that has a programmatic effect in our community runs through this crew. So we're very happy to have him. He lives in Paducah with his wife Molly and their daughter Madeline. So would you like to say anything?
Yes. Happy to be in this position. Good to see everyone again. I was here 2 weeks ago.
Taylor,
So.
congratulations to you.
Congratulations.
You've been a fixture
Yes.
in Parks and Rec, and you've done a fine job, and you're very deserving of this promotion. So
Thank you.
congratulations to you.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move to the public comments portion of the agenda, and there's quite a few people that are signed up. And so I would just remind everybody that you got 3 minutes, and to be respectful to all of us. And first one on the list is John Berry.
I passed the last.
Okay. T.J. Davison.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, Mr. City Clerk. My name is T.J. Davison, and I own KC's Bar and Grill, located at 3501 Park Plaza Road. I'm a brand new business owner just starting out in Paducah. I have lived in Paducah the majority of my life. I was born at Western Baptist Hospital. I attended elementary school at Cooper Whiteside, then I finished high school at Reeland. When I was 2, my family moved north to Hammond, Indiana for work. We moved back here in 1990. I've worked here all of my life until 2021, when I had to leave Paducah for a job. My wife and children stayed here, and I drove back and forth from Texas every Friday for about 1.5 years, and then moved to Memphis, and I still commuted the same way. In June of last year, I was promoted and allowed to finally move home in October of 2023. I still fly somewhere different every Monday, and I work away from my home. About 5 weeks ago, an opportunity was brought to my attention, and I purchased a business here in Paducah, and over the next few years, this will assure me to never have to leave Paducah ever again. to make a living, that is. Maybe one day I'll get to retire and move to Florida, but you know. As soon as I purchased this business, I was met with some of the best feedback from the fellow citizens here in Paducah, but I was also met with some potential challenges facing businesses like mine. I live here. I have worked here my entire adult life until the last 3 years. I have seen all the different changes, good and bad, that has come to this city. I didn't get paid to come here. I don't get a grant to start a business, anything like that. I have had no monetary help from anyone or any civic entity whatsoever to pursue the dreams that I have and I'm doing. I have put everything I have worked for my entire adult life in this business. Although I sympathize with a group of people that some of the issues that have been brought up has been brought forth and it's affecting them, if some of these ordinances are put into place for the entirety of Paducah, it could potentially affect my ability, along with others like me, to make a living and live the dream of being a business owner and working for myself. I urge the city not to make rash decisions, whether it be a noise ordinance or even worse, limiting the time allowed to be open, and think about the other citizens of Paducah that have been here and grown up here and continue to try to build a life here. These potential decisions don't just affect me, but they also affect my employees. They rely on this income to survive, as well as we all know, the economy in today is very hard and it's very rough. I want to do what I can to be right by my employees and give them every opportunity to make as much money and support their families as I can. I only ask the city to do the same for me.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Carla Berry?
Good evening. I'm Carla Berry. I live at 212A Broadway here in Paducah. I've been in Paducah my entire life. Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, Commissioners, and City Clerk. I stand here before you to publicly respond to you and our community regarding the last Cars and Cigars event that was held on May 18th, 2024 in downtown Paducah. John and I have nothing against any of the events that are held downtown. I simply want you to know that the people involved in this event misinformed this community regarding the real reason behind the cancellation of these events going forward. They were very vocal that evening about the fact that they were losing money on the events, and they were handing out flyers asking participants, letting them know that they were going to have to charge $15 per car going forward to cover additional cost. Nothing was mentioned in the handout describing that a portion of the funds would go toward a particular charity. Thank you for the perfect ploy against us to bring the attention to this event. Now it's back on schedule. Back in the winter, a meeting was held by a few city employees telling the cigar bar owner he was not to have a band in front of our building. He simply disobeyed this request and set the band up in front of our building once again. This event, again, I would like to stress that, like these events on Broadway, a Main Street board member, I have spent many hours helping set these events up, 4th of July, Water of Life, and Fall Festival. The gentleman and the city threw us under the bus and allowed us to be bullied. I have worked my entire 46 years career in this community trying to help people as a banker, keeping my reputation stellar. John and I have never been so humiliated this past week from social media posts, cars and motorcycles going past our home, revving their engines, yelling at us to people standing out in front of the cigar bar harassing us. Shame on all of you all. Please let this speech stand as my resignation from the Main Street Board, and I would recommend that you appoint Joaquin Hilton as my replacement, because for some reason, he has the power in this downtown to control our leaders of this community.
Kevin Moore? Is that, yeah. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. You're one of the few people who's actually ever gotten that right. Thank you. My apologies, because I never done this before. I don't know how I'm supposed to address the court, but with all respects, everything. My name is Kevin Moore. Whew, I'm like feeling a little panic attack-ish. I was born in Paducah, Western Baptist Hospital. I've worked here my whole life. I live on the border of Graves County now, in McCracken County. So I do not live here in McCracken County, but I do come here for business and to purchase stuff and everything else. These are my bandmates. I've played music for 20 years in this area. I'm really not 100% for sure what this meeting was about, but I was hoping to gather more information as I sit here. But I just wanted to come here because when I was younger, people like me did not have a voice in this area. We did not have a place to play. I play music. Artists did not have a place to display their art. All this stuff has come in my lifetime. And I just want to see that go on for the generation that comes after us. Like that needs, people fought really hard for the things that are happening in this area, for people to be able to play here, for these events to go on, for the music to grow, for the art industry to grow. Like people need more opportunities here. They need more opportunities. I'm just fearful that anything that hinders these opportunities is taken away, and it's just making it more and more difficult for people to continue on. It's a very difficult industry as it is. It's hard to find places to play. It's hard to be able to express yourself, to be able to go out and book a show, and actually to make money. If you figure out how, let me know. But we try, and we do it because we want that opportunity for the next generation. We hope they can actually make a living doing that. Like, that'd be something. So that's really all I have to say. I don't know any legal sides of this to go on about. I just wanted to, from an artist's perspective, I paint and I play music, and I think there should be more of that, not less of that. That brings in business to this area. It creates opportunities. And is that my 3 minutes? Okay. Thank you all very much. It creates opportunities.
What's the name of your band? Sir, what's the name of your band?
The Wish You Were's?
The
Wish You Were.
Wish You Were.
Wish You
Okay,
Were.
thank you.
Yeah.
Drew Harden?
That's hard.
Hello, everybody. I was going to just play the town hall scene from Footloose. I thought that would have been appropriate, but I've decided to speak instead. I will briefly address Ms. Berry just because I want everyone to know, including the news or whomever else, the decision to cancel Cars and Cigars was solely made on the events that happened that day. And what I would consider to be a little bit of constant harassment's a big word. I don't want to use that, but having to kind of jump through loopholes and getting pushback over what we considered to be an event that we made as many concessions as we could make. We agreed to not have percussions in any bands. We agreed to move the bands down as far as we could while still getting electricity to those bands and not popping a breaker. And at that point, we had just kind of had as far as we would go. That's all I want to say about that, is I'm here to talk about the ordinance. I spent a lot of time in the last few days, Saturday and today as well, walking around downtown with a sound pressure meter. I want to see what my stuff looks like on a regular day-to-day basis as far as outside over-under and outside Stella's. I have simple speakers, just in my opinion, to let people know we're open. So at first I measured the speakers and I was like, oh wow, this is like 65, 70 decibels. That's really loud. So I'm like, well, let's see how far it is 20 feet away. Still 65, 70 decibels. And I went to the next building, 65, 70 decibels. And I realized I'm measuring ambient noise of downtown. I strongly agree with the idea of having a noise ordinance. I think that we're going to find, as we discussed after looking at it, that there's some holes in the way that it's being done. C weighting does affect things as far as I think you're going to pick up more bass out of the cars. That's what I was gathering today. You get a lot of hum, I think, out of HVAC units. The trucks that deliver beer and things like that. Things that you would not think are causing noise. But the difference between A and B weighting was pretty significant. And so as I walked through downtown, I measured all 4 blocks, or the first 4 blocks. And 20 plus times, to be honest, lowest reading I got was 65. Lowest reading. And I thought that was birds chirping. And the HVAC running on top of the Market House Square. That's it. Everything else is more 70 to 80. I'm sorry, an average of 75. So point being, I think there needs to be some adjustments to what we have today. So I'm hoping that's a rough draft, something to go off of. I would also like to see that the hours of operation be expanded, because I do think that a business has the right to conduct their business normally during normal working hours, be that 7, 8 a.m. till, afternoons. We're open for lunch. I mean, if someone is sitting outside my restaurant at lunch, I would like it to not be deathly silent. I do think that everyone has the right to have, their voice heard and to not experience too much noise. But we as restaurant owners, business owners, also have the right or the freedom to make a little bit of noise and it be okay. So I would hope that we could move forward. I want a noise ordinance of some sort, but I think it needs to be something where we're measuring music or the problem and not background noise and not other things. Thanks.
Thank you. Tyler Summers.
Hi there, Tyler Summers, Paducah, Kentucky, resident of McCracken County. I'm here as a concerned citizen over precisely what he just hit on, the decibel range. I'm not sure who took those measurements or anything, but that is so quiet. It's a clap. Don't want anybody clapping downtown. That sounds awful. That's a vacuum cleaner. That's average city street. Like, that's what it says when you Google decibel limits and everything like that. It says that's an average city street. And I don't want this town to be average. I love Paducah. I want to see it succeed. You're going to have a little give and take, because that is ridiculously quiet. Ridiculously quiet. And I'm not going to ramble at you guys. I'm not going to take near that time. But just speaking as a conservative citizen, that's very quiet. It's very, very quiet. That's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sarah.
That was 65 decibels. That was 65 decibels.
Amanda Odie.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Amanda Odie. I am owner of O&A's Piano Bar. My husband and I are Carlisle County residents. I used to live in Paducah and have been away from Paducah for about 5 years. A year ago, my husband told me to invest in my dream. I've been in the hospitality industry for over 30 years. 25 years of that was with Outback Steakhouse. My husband is your true American farmer who supports my dream. Anytime we would travel, it was Nashville, Evansville, St. Louis, because there wasn't that entertainment in downtown Paducah. And we would find live music. My dream for the piano bar was if you could walk in through our doors and leave the weight of the world, whether it's for one drink, a date night, a company dinner, and if you left the weight of the world and you relaxed and unwind, then my dream came true. Between COVID and our younger generation today, they are so glued to their cell phone that that's where they get instant gratification, get false information. But live music brings people together and they put those cell phones down. And if you can do that in our bar, but with these noise ordinance and your time frames, you're kind of tying our hands and buying them. Paducah is filled with incredible, and I haven't had your man yet, I apologize. I'm a dueling piano bar, but we're growing, or trying to grow. But we have more people stop on our business because Main Street does not support us. And Carla, I thank you for your resignation, because I was going to ask for it, because you do not support downtown Paducah the way a board member should. So thank you.
Amanda,
for taking it from us.
let's keep it directed.
So, well, I just wanted to address that, please. Our musicians, this town, are serving staff. They don't get off till 11. If you close at 11, you're telling them all of their hard work throughout the week, waiting and taking care of you all and giving you exceptional service, that they are not thought about and cared about for when they are ready to relax and unwind. So I ask that we, like Drew said, let this be a rough draft and let's work together. We all want this to be peaceful, but downtown Paducah should be a destination place for our community members and tourists to come to. So,
Thank you. John Berry.
Commissioners, Mayor, City Clerk, this is a really terrible deal. Nobody feels any worse about it than Carl and I. I've had no problem with Drew or Blake, either one. I didn't have a problem with them the other night at the Cars and Cigars event. We've never beefed about the noise of the cars or anything down there other than the band, which all of you, not all of you, you were gone and you were gone last year when we had you up to listen to the music in our place. And I think everyone, including your wife, agreed that it was absolutely unbearable. We do not care what you play in your place of business. I don't care how loud you play in your place of business. When you put it on the walk in front of my building, that infringes on my right as a citizen of Paducah, Kentucky. And the state noise ordinance prohibits that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, we'll have the first reading of the noise ordinance in just a little bit, but before we get on to the regular part of the agenda, I wanted to just mention something very positive in the community. Everybody here knows that we built a new airport terminal over the last 3 or 4 years, and we got some really good news recently. The airport actually came and delivered to the city a $361,000 check, which essentially was building the terminal under budget, which is something that you don't hear of very often. And the city has taken a portion of that $361,000, 133 of it, to pave the parking lot at the Cherry Civic Center. So we're putting that money to good use, and then we'll have $227,000 that we'll be able to use for other means. And that came out of our 2019 bond fund. So I just, we don't, a lot of times we hear a lot of things over budget. It's very seldom you hear something like this, so I just wanted to celebrate it for a moment. So with that, we'll move to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval unless one of our commissioners would like an item removed for separate discussion. Okay, City Clerk, I'll ask you to please read the items.
Approve minutes for the May 14th, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents, personnel actions, a municipal order accepting the bid of Right Way Janitorial Services, LLC, in the base bid amount of $53,850 for custodial services for public restroom facilities and parks with additional services at unit pricing as required by the Parks and Recreation Department, and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute an application for a U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, Bulletproof Vest Grant Program in the amount of $7,550 for the purchase of 20 body armor vests, accepting any grant funds awarded by the U.S. Department of Justice, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. A municipal order approving the fleet maintenance, motorized equipment, and emergency apparatus service agreement with the Livingston County Emergency Management to provide fleet maintenance services at hourly rates and authorizing the execution of all documents related to same. A municipal order approving a fleet maintenance, motorized equipment, and emergency apparatus service agreement with Berkeley Regional Airport Authority to provide fleet maintenance services at hourly rates and authorizing the execution of all documents related to same. A municipal order accepting the bid for sale to the city of one half-ton pickup 4x4 SSV and the total amount of $79,000 for use by the fire department, and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same.
So moved. Second.
Call roll. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, we have two municipal orders to approve tonight. The first one, I'll ask the city clerk to read it and then ask Chris Yarber to come up and talk about it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt a municipal order entitled, a municipal order accepting a Kentucky Pride Fund composting grant in the amount of $605,071 and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same.
So moved.
Second.
Chris?
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
City Clerk. This is just a grant we applied for and received for the use to purchase a grinder for the compost yard. For several years, we've had a contract to have someone come in and grind the debris that we get, and it's not cheap. It allows us to better control the yard and better serve the citizens with the times that we grind. When the contractor comes in, we have to shut the yard down for safety reasons. And it kind of hurts our service, and it hurts people having the time to come in. So this is going to improve the service, improve the product, and just make it a better operation for us. Any questions?
Any questions? Anybody?
Me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. So the next item is a contract for services with beautiful Paducah for our barbecue on the river. And we'll I'll ask you to read it first, and then city manager will discuss it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt a municipal order entitled, a municipal order authorizing and approving an agreement between the City of Paducah and Beautiful Paducah Incorporated for Barbecue on the River 2024 in an amount of $75,000 and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor and Commissioners, as you're aware, hopefully you're aware, this will be the 30th anniversary of Barbecue on the River. It's had a long and successful run for the community. It's been a positive event. Historically, the city has been a big proponent of this event and supporter. And this year, the request has come forth to continue that support in the amount of $75,000, which would be divided in two payments. The first one on or before June 30th of $37,500, that installment, and then the second installment be paid upon successful completion of the event.
So I'll make a couple of comments on this. Beautiful Paducah took over Barbecue on the River 2 years ago. This would be their third year. The folks that organized it previously had organized it for 26 years and had it down pretty good. It was like pretty much like a well-oiled machine. And, Beautiful Paducah has been on the learning curve. And so we've been working with them. We have numerous meetings over the last several weeks. And in addition to that, the previous organizers, Susie Coiner specifically and Carol Galt, have offered to provide some assistance. And so this was a collaborative agreement that we work together to reach, and believe that it's a good outcome for this year, and so we're moving forward.
I'd just like to make a comment. I always pitch this, but the city is, between our in-kind services and this $75,000 grant, we're supporting this to the tune of about $160,000. And this event is open to everyone, anyone, no matter where you come from, Cracken County. It's funded by the City of Paducah, and it's a service that the city is providing for Western Kentucky. And so just a lot of people think that the city does city stuff, but we provide a lot of services that are much larger than the City of Paducah. So I think it's important that we recognize that. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and Paducah is we're the county seat. We're the largest city for, 9, 10, 11 counties around here. People come here to shop. And so we do provide a lot of services, and the city steps up in order to, to make us the regional seat that we are, so. Any other comments?
No, I have none.
Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to call roll, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson? Aye. Mayor Bray?
Aye. We have 3 resolutions tonight. The first has to do with medical cannabis, and I'll ask the city clerk to please read it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt a resolution entitled, "A Resolution Supporting Medical Cannabis Businesses Locating in Paducah, Kentucky."
So moved.
Second.
So this is a result of discussion. This is kind of like a 2, 3, 4-step process. As we discussed in open session 2 weeks ago, medical cannabis has been legalized in Kentucky, and there's going to be a process that we go through, that cities go through, who want that business to be located here, must go through, and so it was unanimous. I think with the commission that we wanted to be positive on this going forward, and so this is a step basically to say that we want to move forward with it. There's a lot of discussion about it. Medical cannabis. Paducah is a medical center. We have two excellent hospitals here. Probably between the 2 hospitals, we have a couple thousand employees. And so this makes, to me, it makes economic sense, and it makes common sense, that this is the way we move forward. But any other comments from anyone? Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. So I ask the city clerk to read the next resolution.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt a resolution entitled, "A Resolution Requesting the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority to adopt a resolution in issuing industrial building revenue bonds to finance the Goodwill Industries of Kentucky Incorporated industrial building project located within the boundaries of the City of Paducah."
So moved.
There's a second.
City manager, would you explain this one to us?
Sure. Mayor and Commission, the Goodwill Industries has looking to expand its footprint here in our community. And part of their application to the State Economic Development Cabinet requires a resolution of support for them to pursue certain avenues for financing. This resolution just says that the body would support their application to the Economic Development Finance Authority to issue some funding. It would not obligate the city in any manner financially. And so, if they did that and they were to not proceed according to the cabinet's requirements, the city would not have any financial obligation by issuing this resolution. It does, similar to other economic development projects that the body has supported in the past, industrial revenue bonds are one tool in the toolbox for economic development that does provide some cost savings to a developer. I think one of the more recent ones is the Holiday Inn Express downtown, that the city authorized industrial revenue bonds to assist on that. Again, there's no financial obligation on behalf of the city. You're not incurring anything. It also does not go against our bonding capacity. It is a standalone and doesn't hurt us in that manner. And if you've got any additional questions, be happy to answer.
I do.
Yep.
What do they want to do, and where do they want to do it? I guess they have a location in Paducah, or?
Yes, they're looking to build a larger footprint. I'm not sure that they have made public that location as of yet.
It did say within the city of.
But it is,
Yeah.
it's within the city limits.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
And what will happen to the current building that they're in?
That's for them to determine how they want to utilize that. It would not require them to vacate that building should they move forward with that.
Do we know how much money we're talking about with that?
They had not shared as to, at this point with us, as to what they anticipate on that. It's just, this is the first step in the resolution being passed so they can go to the Economic Development Cabinet and work the next.
It's basically supporting a business, Goodwill, a business who has a thrift store out in Lone Oak and then has opened a center right on Broadway, right across from the police station, down a little bit, and is doing a lot of great work in the community to help people find jobs and get people working, and so they're making a major contribution in the community. Commissioner Wilson and I met with them before they bought that building, so I think they do a lot of great work, and I think this is a good thing for us to support, especially since it's no financial obligation. Any other discussion?
No, I'm good.
City Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, and I'll ask the City Clerk to please read the next resolution.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt a resolution entitled, "A Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, supporting the Housing Authority of Paducah's Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant Application and committing funds to its grant match requirement if awarded."
So moved. I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, so we have Joseph Anderson, the Director of the Paducah Housing Authority here. As Joseph is moving his way up here, he's been with us here about a year. And Joseph has a big vision for the future of the Housing Authority here in Paducah. And so I'd like to invite him to tell us about that vision. Joseph?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner, City Clerk, and City Manager. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm here to speak on the support for the Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant. As you can see, the Choice Neighborhood is actually one of the HUD's signature-based program, and what that means, it is one of the largest programs that they have out there. The grant program is designed to address struggling neighborhoods with distressed HUD assistance housing through a comprehensive approach, and it's actually a more modern or upgraded version of the Hope 6. I know, Mr. Jordan, you have experience with the Hope 6 grant in the past, as I do. The Hope 6 mostly focused on just addressing distressed housing. With this grant, there's 3 core goals you could see: housing, people, neighborhoods. For people, it is to improve the outcomes of household. For neighborhood, is to create the conditions necessary for public and private reinvestment in distressed neighborhoods to offer the kinds of amenities and assets, including safety. As you can see, if you are one of these 5 eligible applicants, the NOFO, Notice of Funding Opportunities, which is large government agencies, public housing authorities, non-for-profit, profit, and tribal entities, you are eligible to apply for this grant. Now, there's 2 types of grants. We're here today, I'm here along with some of my staff and the commissioner, thank you for showing up, to talk about the planning grant. The planning grant, as it says, it is a 2-year commitment. It supports the development of a comprehensive neighborhood transformation or a revitalization plan that focuses on hitting those 3 core goals. The planning grant awards up to $500,000 with a 5% match, which consists of, for us or anyone who would want to match, $25,000 $100,000. The second type of grant, and I want to make this clear, that we are only pursuing right now the planning grant, not the implementation. The implementation grant, it is an 8-year grant that supports communities who have undergone a comprehensive process to redevelop the neighborhood. The difference in that is the grant award is up to $50 million. Now, both of these grants are highly competitive. The implementation grant is something that we, along with community partners and supporters, would need to consider long-term, because you would have to leverage a 7-to-1 ratio, which means if we were to go after the $50 million, we would have to come up with an additional $300 million. So that's something that we are going to consider down the road. But right for now, we are going to definitely go after the planning grant. These are some of the grant awardees from 2023, as you can see. Some of those are housing authorities with cities being a co-applicant. Some of them are just housing authorities, and then some of them are just cities. I know this year Joliet, the city of Joliet, is going after it with some support from the housing authority. What we are asking is for the city not to be a co-applicant, but a supporter of us if we pursue this endeavor. Here's results from the planning grant that really stands out. In regards to housing, it says 50% of those did so without an implementation grant. You do not have to go after the implementation grant. 36 redeveloped HUD-assisted housing. In regards to neighborhoods, 74% completed neighborhood improvements. 60% did so without an implementation of grant. 42% saw increased private investments. In regards to the people, 81% offered new resident services, 56% did so without an implementation grant, 73% secured additional resources for residential services. Anderson Court is the target area. This was an area that myself, along with my staff, when we start looking at some of the issues and concerns, this was the first choice that we decided to go after. As you can see, Anderson Court was constructed in 1952. This is actually one of our oldest sites, so I believe 72 to 74 years old. Right now, it consists of 100 family units. Here's the boundaries that we've outlined, and this was done to give us the best opportunity to go after the grant. As you can see, North Barnett Street, 10th Street West, Jefferson Street South, the Ohio River shorelines, hence the name River's Edge Neighborhood Boundary. I wanted to name it Big Ed's, but I think that name was taken, so I had to change it up. How can partners or stakeholders be involved? Providing in-kind commitment, support by MOUs. My team has been garnering those supports. We did have community partners attend the meeting. It was actually well attended. We've also had meetings with the residents of Anderson Court. It is very big that we engage our residents to have them involved, but it is also important that we engage that community which would be impacted also. As you can see on here, it says assisting community assessments, focus groups, or the contributions of funds. 24-month grant. So the funds would be used for the following activities: market studies, architectural design renderings, meeting coordinated related materials, early action activities, which if we are awarded the grant, we would actually have to start early action activities within 30 days from receiving the grant. Creation of an office, site visits to other CN awarded communities. So we will be traveling and taking folks with us to see some of the other things that have been done in other communities. Myself and actually the board, we were on a retreat. We went to Atlanta. Atlanta actually has 2 choice neighborhood grants. We do plan on going to see some other sites so we can get some ideas of what others are doing around the country. It also provides the opportunity for a planning coordinator in the grant. Here is a plan for us. The grant is due June 10th. As you can see up there, it says choice neighborhood is due. And so it's a 2-year process, and hopefully by October of this year, we will know whether or not we would be a recipient of the grant. That does take time. I know 1 year they did not award the grant until, I believe, January of that incoming year. So, Lord willing, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope, hope for good results. Once again, transformation plan is a comprehensive neighborhood revitalization strategy. When implemented, will achieve the 3 core goals of the choice neighborhood. It will be a guiding document for the neighborhood revitalization. So once we're rewarded, we will be reaching out, getting initiatives started, talking and trying to involve people within the community. Thank you for allowing me to address you today.
Thank you, Joseph. And, Joseph came in, like I said, about a year ago. He inherited a lot of work with the Housing Authority, to say the least. And one of our commissioners is here. Thank you for being here as well. And Paducah Housing Authority is something that a lot of people don't think about, don't really understand, but it's very important to our community that we manage it correctly, and that we stay up to date. And I think our housing and the Housing Authority has fallen considerably behind where a lot of other communities are going, and so Joseph is here to help lead the way for us. So, thank you.
Thank you. What we are trying to do is create a community of choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out that I don't think that Mr. Anderson has been here a good year just yet. He's close up on it, but he has come in and he has taken the bull by the horns, and he is moving our housing authority in a very favorable direction. But I also think that it's important because we learned in preparing for this, we learned that people take this part of the presentation to think that we're getting ready to tear down Anderson Court. And I think it's important that we emphasize that that is not the case in the implementation stage. That's correct. I wanted you to say.
That's not the case.
That's it. That's it.
Thank
Right.
you for saying that. I was going to mention that. We are not tearing down Anderson Court. That involves a lot more planning to do that, strategic planning. So thank you.
But that is the word on the street.
And I think it's also important to talk about the relationship between the city and the Paducah Housing Authority. That we don't have any, it's a separate entity. We don't control the Housing Authority. So.
We appoint the board, but that's it. The mayor appoints the board and we approve it. Right.
Okay. Are we all?
Yeah, I've just mentioned for the commissions, that this financial pledge of $25,000 is only contingent upon the successful award of the grant. And as Joseph mentioned, the expansion from the Hope 6 into this program gives a big opportunity for a holistic approach that the Hope 6 really didn't focus on. So we're excited about partnering
Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, we have two ordinances to adopt tonight. They've both been read previously, but I'll ask the city clerk to please read the first one.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for the closure of two 10-foot alleys west of 24th Street between Center Street and Site Street and between Site Street and Barnett Street, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah does hereby authorize the closure of 2,826 square feet of a 10-foot alley west of South 24th Street between Center Street and Site Street, and the closing of 4,046 square feet of a 10-foot alley west of South 24th Street between Site Street and Barnett Street, and authorizes, empowers, and directs the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed from the City of Paducah to the property owners in or abutting the way to be closed, and all other necessary documents to effectuate the closure.
So moved.
Second.
I'm not sure we need any discussion on this one. This was, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Are we all good? Okay, I'll ask you to call roll, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Now, before we read the next ordinance to adopt, I just want to take a half a second. This is the adoption of the 911 interlocal agreement with the county. This is a process that we've been working here for well over 5 years on to get us to this point. There's been a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and angst that's gone into this agreement, even over the last couple of weeks. I know that City Manager Jordan and I attended a county workshop where we sat and walked through the last couple of issues. And so I will ask you to read the ordinance, but I just want to make sure that we take a little time to understand exactly where we are and how far we've come.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, approving and authorizing the execution of an interlocal cooperative agreement between the City of Paducah, Kentucky and the County of McCracken, Kentucky for the provision of 911 services. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance authorizes the mayor to execute an interlocal cooperation agreement between the City of Paducah, Kentucky and the County of McCracken, Kentucky for the provision of 911 services to be served jointly by both public agencies.
So moved.
Second.
City Manager, you want to add anything to that?
Mayor, I think you captured the essence. It has been something that's a long time coming, and I believe that the fiscal court, in their special called meeting this evening, is also having their second reading for adoption. The next step after we get to this will be the discussion of how to fund ongoing, and I'll have a little bit about that later in the budget presentation.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners?
No.
Okay, then I'll ask the city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Just seems like there ought to be a little more fanfare on that. But
That's the nature of this job, though. Accomplish something and it's just quiet.
When you call 911 and they show up, then you celebrate. Or, no, you're not, but you're glad that they're there to help you.
Okay, so we have two ordinances to introduce in addition to the noise ordinance. We are introducing our budget for the next fiscal year. And there's been a tremendous amount of work put into that, led by the city manager and all the department heads. All the commissioners have participated in that process. And it's been a very lengthy process that we go through every year. And I'll let the city manager talk about it, but first, city clerk, please read it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance adopting the City of Paducah, Kentucky annual operating budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government. This ordinance is summarized as follows. Adopting the City of Paducah annual budget for fiscal year July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government at $120,854,935 and summarized by fund as follows. Fund and appropriations. General, $57,637,779. MAP, $2,501,705. Investment, $8,315,330. TIF, $0. E911, $3,721,817. Opioid, $64,200. Court awards, $116,165. Room tax, $1,850,650. Debt, $3,617,780. CIP, $11,296,250. Bond fund, $15 million. Solid waste, $6,937,075. Transient boat dock, $442,681. Rental, $154,482. Radio depreciation, $25,035. Fleet maintenance, $879,981. Fleet lease trust, $2,425,255. Insurance, $1,348,140. Health insurance, $3,659,420. PFPF, $786,765. Other trust, $74,425 for a total of $120,854,935.
So moved.
Second.
City Manager?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Finance Director, Mr. Perkins, to come forward, and he's going to walk us first through the different aspects and an overview of this. And just while he's getting set up, this is a big team effort, and can't thank the Finance Department enough, and John and his team put in a lot of hours to get us to this point. And so, John?
Okay. Just a little bit of trivia before I mess this up for everybody. You were talking about 911 just a minute ago. When I first started here in early 91, one of my first tasks was to help them get their funding mechanism put together in 91. So we've been through this a lot before. It was a lot different back then. First of all, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and City Clerk. As you know, the budget process started back in January and February, and that's we've spent a lot of time. I know you have, I have, and we always look forward to getting to work on the budget. We always look forward to being done with the budget. Tonight, my purpose is to provide you a very high-level review of the budget, and I'm going to specifically concentrate on the general fund. In summary, you all were provided the agenda action form some time ago. City Manager pointed out a glaring error in it, and I didn't see it till I don't know who caught it.
I don't know.
But I assume nobody else did. What the budget does is it covers the debt service payments that we have, all kinds of obligations in the way of debt. We included across the board 4% wage adjustments as contractually obligated for the bargaining units, and then to be fair for non-representative full-time employees as well. It allows for a minimum of 10% reserve for the general fund, the investment fund, solid waste fund, and it also includes all the state mandated pension contributions that we're required to do. Point number 6 was where the glaring error was, now that I look at it, and it says we included appropriations for numerous outside agencies. It should have said appropriations. We've also included all the funding for the Board of Commissioner priorities, and it also assumes that in the fall we'll have a 4% increase in the real estate property tax levy voted under separate ordinance. Let's see. Which button do we push, Lindsay?
You got it.
Oh, got it. Okay. Well, anyway, what I said I was going to do it from a high-level view and just the general fund, as Lindsay read earlier, that all 23, 24, 25 funds include about $120 million, and that seems like a lot of money because it is a lot of money. About 57 million of that is general fund, which is what we're going to talk about just in brief. And so what I thought I'd talk about first, we talk about this a lot. We talk about the big four, and that would include, and this is the big four revenues, that's payroll tax, that's the flagship of everything. Property tax, specifically real estate, insurance premium tax, and then business license. This is a summary. You can just see, it's easier to see in a picture over the last several years. Starting in 2021, 22, and 23, those are actual results of those four I just mentioned to you. And then 24 and 25, they're not done, but those are projected. 24, we believe that's probably pretty close. It might be, hopefully be better. And 25, again, that's a guesstimation. The way you have to look at this is, we're guessing right now what's going to happen 18 months from now when we first started out. And that's not the easiest thing to do. And hopefully, and I went back and looked at the tape, I looked at the video of last year. And I can't remember why I couldn't be here, but Auditor had the opportunity to do this. And so I tried to copy what she did. I understood she did such a great job. I wish she were here to do this, but you're stuck with me. And so I thought pictures were good. And she spent a little bit of time talking about post-COVID. We're still, and obviously forever and ever will be post-COVID, but hopefully it gets better and better. It seems like every time we run into a hiccup in the economy, like in 2009, it took us a long time to get back to what we consider to be normal. COVID hit, it takes a while to get back to normal. And so we hope that we finally have arrived at a new normal, and hopefully we can project pretty easily into the future. What I want to do next is just look at each of the pieces, each of the big four.
John, I think you skipped ahead one.
I think I did.
Yep.
There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. Again, I mentioned earlier, the payroll tax is the flagship. Whatever happens to this, it's the tail that wags the dog. And so as you can see over time, this has trended up nicely. And in particular in the last few years, it's done rather well. Post-COVID, it did really exceptional. It looks like in 24, I think we'll probably do better than that these are revised expectation numbers. And then the 25 number, we hope that we'll do even better than that. Again, it's hard to project exactly. Next one is the insurance premium tax. There it is. This is one that we've struggled with forever and ever. This is now post the 7% insurance premium rate, which went into effect basically fully in 21. And as you can see, it's done okay. And we think this year, fiscal 24, $6.5 million, we believe we'll achieve that. We're being conservative on the $6.5 million next year. Hopefully we'll do better. I don't think anybody sitting in this room has received an insurance premium renewal that didn't go up. And so insurance premium tax is a function of that premium. And so hopefully we're wrong. Hopefully we're just being too conservative and it will be better. Next category is property tax. Again, this is pretty consistent. It is the most consistent revenue that we have. Houses don't go away, so the real estate is very solid. Under Bill Dunn's leadership, assessment has gone up across the board, I believe, throughout the county. And I suspect we're about to go through another cycle. Maybe I think they have to reassess every 4 years. And I think things are more realistic now. I'd mentioned earlier that we anticipate we will bring to you and ask for you to vote for a 4% increase. And by that I mean if the assessed values go up nicely, which we anticipate that they will, that doesn't mean your tax rate will go up by 4%. In fact, it probably will go down. And we've experienced that the last several years because as the base gets bigger, the rate gets smaller. And then the last, let's try that again. This thing is sensitive, isn't it? Business license. This is relatively flat. In 21, that's when we were just coming out of COVID. Things were a little screwy. 22 forward, it's been about the same for many, many years. And I know we've mentioned this even during our one-on-ones and have mentioned it in public numerous times. The business license is basically a tax on the business's gross receipts. And it has basically a cap of your first $3.5 million. After that, it has a multiplier of 0.4 zeros and a 5. So it's not, a big number. That's why it doesn't grow very much. You would think because of inflation in the last couple of years has been 9 to 15% over time, that number will grow because gross receipts are going up because you're paying more for groceries and you're paying more for everything. And that's not necessarily the case here because it caps out. Now, on the other side of the ledger, we have the general funds expenditures. Again, this is a very high view. If you'll take a peek at the pie we have, as we all probably know, personnel people make up the lion's share of the cost of doing business in the city of Paducah. And as you can see from the chart, $33.4 million out of our budget are spent for wages, overtime, health insurance, you name it. We cover it all. And then the next category there, the largest one, you move to the left, and I guess that's yellow. That's interfund transfers. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but that's not normally that large. And then the other two categories are commodities and contractuals. Those would be gasolines, or fuels rather, utilities, and all manner of those kinds of things. I want to focus a little bit more on interfund transfer. I know you know we're actually going to, if you look at the numbers, you do the math, we're actually going to spend more than we're going to bring in next year. And because we're doing that, I need to explain to you what that is. It's like if you're at home and you want to buy something that costs $1,000, but you only make $500, but you have $500 over in your savings account, well, you're not really spending more than you have. You're just getting it from a different place, and that's what we're doing. We have been blessed for numerous years now, post-COVID. We brought in more than we spent. We were being very tight-fisted and not spending more than we had to spend, but we did a bond issue. I think you said 2019, but you're just a little ahead. That's where we're paying it off, paying it back over the next 20 years. And then the next category is PFPF Trust. That's where we're subsidizing our pensioners on a local pension fund. And then the BODOC, that is where we're doing some major renovation of the transit BODOC, and then other. Now, the very top line, that's the one we spent a lot of time talking about. I don't have the city manager, I don't know if you've got it with you there, you probably do. That's where we're going to dip into this savings account reserve, and we're going to spend some money on some major capital items. I've got a couple I can tell you about real quick. The build grant, we're putting I think it's $2 million toward that. The city block parking lot, we have to pay off some of the loans toward that, and that's another $3.4 million. So that's a big chunk of that aid.
Tenured process that, literally we get in earnest in January, February, but it actually begins, and it's almost a year round when we're looking at the budget. Also, I want to thank our executive leadership team for their efforts and participation. And as you'll recall, we had those departments in the leadership make presentations to kind of to the mayor and the commission about some of their priorities. And then as the mayor and you as a commission, we all got together and looked at your priorities and taking that into. And so that was the genesis of where we started looking at outside of. John also mentioned the investment fund and how we're doing some things in broad categories like debt service and economic development, neighborhood redevelopment, infrastructure, and the commission priorities. That investment fund is funded by 1/2 of 1% of the occupational tax. So that 2% occupational tax that John spoke of, 1/2 of 1% of that is set aside to do those broad investment fund items like I just mentioned, those categories. You've heard earlier this year, we heard a presentation, about where we are in our roads and that 5-year plan and looking at. And so this just allows us to address more of those needs in the road fund. We're also continuing to set aside for housing initiatives. That's a big commission priority. And this year, between our South Side and other housing initiatives, we're allocating $1 million towards housing initiatives in this upcoming budget. That's what we're proposing. We are and I mentioned earlier, taking some of that money out of our rainy day fund or set-asides that we've had and built up. So roughly, we're using about $9 million out of that fund to do some one-time projects. Mayor, Commissioner, you'll recall that when we had our meeting, I said to be bold, to think in bold aspects, and y'all brought some bold ideas and suggestions. And so because we have been blessed with that reserve and not hurting ourselves financially in the future by drawing down too much activities within the general fund. And so we would have a dedicated stream. I mentioned that we're doing a big stormwater project. I failed to mention, though, that we're also upping our annual allocation for stormwater fund. It has been around $40,000, and we're putting that to a couple $100,000 in this budget to be able to do some stormwater projects. However, there's millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars of stormwater projects that need to be done to address stormwater in our community. So at some point in the future, in forward thinking, I think as a reminder, and I mentioned this in previous budget messages, there's going to have to be honest and dedicated conversation about what a dedicated funding stream looks like to be able to address that in long term. And so we can, while we're going to make some substantial improvements in our stormwater, the last couple of years we used ARPA funds of about $4 million. We're allocating 1.2 for a major stormwater project this year. You're going to have a conversation in the future about to really address stormwater. What does a dedicated funding stream look like? And then other things that we see on the horizon is that in Frankfort, there is a continued need for a dialogue about funding constraints and opportunities for fundings that cities just don't have very many opportunities to look at. And so we need to continue to have that as a priority and a dialogue with our elected officials at the state, that cities need more opportunities to make local decisions instead of it all being directed by what the state says can or cannot be for funding sources. With that, again, I want to thank our whole team for the work and the effort that they've put forward to it. Thank you to the Commission and Mayor for your involvement in this. And as this is a first reading, we would not take action tonight. Our intent is to bring this back at the next scheduled meeting for adoption. Statutorily, you do have to adopt the budget before the end of June, just as a reminder. So I'll answer any questions.
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. And now we'll move to the introduction of the next ordinance, and I'll turn this over to Darren Jordan and Lindsay Parrish.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners of the City of Paducah introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 42, Article 4 Noise Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. This ordinance is summarized as follows. It shall be unlawful for any person to intentionally cause any unreasonably loud and disturbing sound in the city, particularly near a school, religious institution, and healthcare facility. All sounds except music shall be measured using the A weighted decibel scale. Music shall be measured using the C decibel weighted scale, as it has been determined that the C weighted decibel scale is more appropriate in the measurement of mixed sounds such as music. This ordinance establishes decibel levels applicable to residentially zoned areas, commercially zoned areas, and manufacturing zoned areas on certain days at certain times. It also sets forth when outdoor speakers and live music are permitted. This ordinance also establishes a procedure in which the chief of police can deem a commercial construction or industrial area as a chronic noise producer. Finally, this ordinance establishes a process whereby a special permit for noise variance can be obtained by persons with special event permits. The penalty for violation of this ordinance ordinance is as follows. In addition to the civil penalties set forth in Section 42-108, any person violating any of the provisions of this article shall be deemed guilty of a Class B misdemeanor, and upon conviction thereof shall receive a fine not to exceed $250 or jail sentence not to exceed 90 days for each offense.
So move.
Second. Mayor and Commission, before Lindsay gets into kind of providing a high-level overview, also let you know that legal has been involved with this, and Stacy's here to also answer any questions. This is a first reading. We are looking at, as a first reading, to get it out, have time for the community to actually understand what is being proposed, for you as commissioners to take public feedback on that, and before, at some time in the future, we have a second reading, be able to, and we've heard some great comments earlier tonight that I think have merit. A noise ordinance in any community that you go to is not going to solve every ill, and it's not going to be pleasing to everyone. The best that we can hope to do, any community can hope to do, is to listen to the community as a whole, as a collective, and draft an ordinance that is beneficial to the whole instead of to a single party. And so that's what we've tried to do with this. And Lindsay, with that, I will let you go over a high-level overview.
Great. So I want to start this evening with just a high-level overview of what our current noise ordinance has involved in it. Right now, that you can see that we have this chart up there, and it's all based on the zoning district and the sound levels either from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then the sound levels between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. the following day, and what those are set at for each of these different types of zones. So in residential, you're looking at 65 decibels all day long, all night long. Commercial, you're looking at 75 during the day, 65 at night, and manufacturing at 80 during the day and 75 at night. A few other things to note about how it is currently written. The decibels are measured at or within the boundary of the property receiving the noise, or not less than 20 feet from the source of the sound if that sound is in the public right-of-way. So if someone is doing music in the public right-of-way or something like that, it would all be measured from not less than 20 feet from that source of the sound. Everything in the current ordinance is measured under the A-weighted decibel scale, so dBA. When you see that, everything is measured that way currently. It disallows excessive or unreasonably loud noise that disturbs a person of ordinary sensibilities in the city. One thing that I really want to highlight tonight is something that we've run into over and over again is the enforceability of the current ordinance. What is enforceable? What do some of these things mean? And we've taken out some of the grayer areas and really focused in on the areas where we can just say, here's what it means. So that is one thing that is in the current ordinance that we are looking to change. And then special variances may be issued by the city manager. So that's a really high level of where we're at today with our current ordinance. As I go through, kind of take a look at the items that I've highlighted in yellow. Those are some of the things that are changing from our current ordinance. So in our new ordinance, the draft that we have, and this is a draft just to tag on to what the city manager has said and what the public has brought up. This is a draft, and we are looking for input on that. So what we did was we are adding the 150 feet from a school, church, house of worship, or healthcare facility. Right now, it's really broad. There's not a distance requirement in there. And we also previously didn't define what unreasonably loud sounds are. So those are some things that we're kind of honing in this new one. So in the new draft ordinance, we define unreasonably loud sound with a lot of factors that need to be included in what that really means. So we're talking about the volume of the background noise, the zoning character of the area, so whether you're in a commercial or manufacturing or residential area, the time of day or night, and the duration, whether it's recurrent, intermittent, or constant noise. So just kind of honing that in. These other notes in here, noise from motor vehicles or radios that is plainly audible at 50 50 feet from the device. This is already something in the current ordinance that we haven't changed or modified. When you're talking about mufflers, exhaust systems that create a nuisance, animals that create a nuisance, car horns except signaling for emergencies and fireworks, that all is in the current ordinance. Those have not been changed. I will note one other thing, that those banned items are not subject to any kind of variance or permit, so they are just always banned. They also are not subject to decibel readings. They are just not allowed. There are a few exceptions to those banned noises, and again, highlighted in yellow, you're going to see kind of what we've added into these exceptions. So a new exception would be amplified noise inside of a building that's not audible outside of the building. So just to make sure that that is clarified, we're not talking about noises that are inside that you can't hear outside the building. And we've also kind of set out that an exception would be musical, recreation, and athletic events conducted by schools and local governments. So when you're talking about Paducah Tillman Band out at an event, we're not talking about them having banned noises. So that allows for that kind of thing. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the differences between the A-weighted decibel readings and the C-weighted decibel readings. Again, in our current ordinance, everything is falling under the DBA. So what we have found is that the DBC does a better job of picking up music and like your bass and your kick drum, those kind of things. It does a better job of picking that up, where DBA does a better job of measuring other things. It's more for human hearing at a low volume. So what the proposed ordinance has in it is that everything that is music associated would be measured under DBC and everything else under DBA. The primary point of this would be to make the readings more accurate and sensitive when you're talking about music versus other things. So our police department has done a lot of work around this, and obviously they're kind of our enforcement piece. And they went out 2 different weekends. I have one weekend posted up here, but they went out 2 different weekends and took readings at different locations downtown in front of different businesses. And this is mainly just this is an average of those readings. They took readings everywhere from 9 p.m. till 1 a.m. And this kind of averages those for one of the weekends. And the main point of this is so that you can kind of see the difference between measuring at a DBA and a DBC. You can see that a lot of these places were music related, and it picked up more sound or higher volumes of sound, higher decibels of sound using the DBC rating to measure music. Now, when they
This wasn't anything to do with any special event. This was just.
This is just no special
Thank
event
you.
at all. One thing to keep in mind, these readings were taken pretty close to the businesses. So these readings are generally a little bit higher than you normally would under this new ordinance and distance-wise. But our officer that went out, if they took the reading from the middle of the sidewalk facing the business and it looked like it was going to be over the decibel limit, they would back up that 20 feet and take it again on the second time that they went out. And generally, overall, there was only one location downtown that was outside of what this new ordinance would consider acceptable during a certain time. So generally, everything fell within the new ordinance. There was just one that, if it was under our new ordinance, would have been issued a warning. But this kind of just gives you an idea of what the difference between DBA and DBC and the sensitivities of that. So Another thing that is new in this ordinance draft is commercial versus non-commercial establishments. It breaks it out into two different types of establishments. Commercial is going to be all of your sales, retail, entertainment, wholesale, pretty much any business is going to fall under commercial. Non-commercial is going to be your residences, your townhouses, your condominiums, hotels, motels. They're also going to fall into non-commercial establishments, with the exception of any bars or restaurants that are inside of a hotel. Those are considered a commercial establishment. So that just kind of gives you an idea of breaking those two out. And then it goes into the different limits, the different decibel reading limits for each type. So when you're talking about non-commercial, you're talking about residences. In residential zones, these are the new kind of proposed decibel readings that would be allowable. So Sunday through Wednesday, 5 to 11 p.m., 65 decibels, dBA or dBc, whichever is applicable. Thursday through Saturday, 1 to 11 p.m., 65 or whichever is applicable. And then Sunday through Saturday or all other times not specified, not in excess of 60 decibels. So you'll note that really this is reducing in residential areas. The primary thing for residents is that those other times not specified by ordinance are going down about 5 decibels. In commercial zones, kind of the same format of the different days and times, but just with a little bit higher decibels, the 75 instead of the 65. And then in manufacturing zones, 80 decibels at all other times. And then commercial noise limits, so now we're talking about businesses. We're talking about bars, restaurants, entertainment venues, that kind of thing. And this is in all zones. So from 5 to 11 p.m., not to exceed 65 decibels, and then allowing outdoor sound amplification equipment. Thursday through Saturday, 1 p.m. to 11 p.m., not to exceed 75 decibels, and allowing for outdoor amplification equipment, such as speakers. And then all other times not to exceed 60. So basically, kind of what this means is going from our old ordinance to our new one that is proposed. It lowers the decibel reading for those times that are during the day, lunchtime hours, and then your later overnight hours after 11 p.m. on the weekends, and after 11 p.m. on holidays and Sundays through Wednesdays. It's lowering that, but it is giving a little bit more flexibility for those kind of weekend, high-traffic hours that you want to be downtown and have kind of those more vibrant downtown events and things that are going on.
What's that last, said Sunday-Saturday?
Sunday through Saturday. Yes, so all other times, basically.
Okay.
Just all other times that aren't accounted for here, it's going to be 60. So that is lowering it all other times that are not accounted for here.
Thank you.
I will highlight the outdoor speakers piece of this. Commercial establishments can only operate outdoor sound amplification equipment, so speakers, outdoor speakers, those kind of things, Sunday through Wednesday from 5 to 11, and then Thursday through Saturday and holidays from 1 to 11 p.m. So that is a change to be aware of in this proposed ordinance, is limiting the hours at which outdoor speakers would be allowable. When you talk about where to measure noise levels, this proposed ordinance basically says that both for commercial and non-commercial, they would be measured the closer of either no less than 20 feet from the property line of the property producing the noise, or anywhere within the boundary of the nearest residentially occupied property. So what this kind of looks like in practice, I had an opportunity to speak with Assistant Chief Copeland today and kind of ask him, what does this look like in practice? And he's gave me some really good information and basically said this looks like if if we get a call from a resident or another business or whoever complaining about a noise violation, the police department would come out, take a look, and they could either measure from no less than 20 feet from the property line of that location that's producing the noise, or anywhere within the boundary of the resident that's complaining. So inside their property line, inside of the boundaries of that person's home or property, they could measure from there. So this gives a little bit more flexibility in the police department being able to measure distances and decibels from different locations.
So in relationship to that aspect, so another example is if you have a common wall between a commercial establishment and a residence on the other side in a different property, it would allow the officer to go into that residence to take a reading.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is the officer going to take the most conservative, or is it just strictly a judgment call?
In talking with, and Assistant Chief, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this, but we did talk a good bit about sticking with what the ordinance says. However, there has to be some level of judgment call when
Yeah.
someone goes out.
I just don't want the police to be put in a situation.
Right.
Well, he measured it this way, should have measured it that way.
This
So I just,
this clarifies.
maybe it can't all be that, that neat.
Yeah. I think that this clarifies for the police department some more specifics than what they currently have. And I think there's always going to be some level of judgment that the person has to make. And this also applies to whether the noise is being generated inside or outside the commercial business, so. And then getting into kind of enforcement procedures, not a whole lot of change here, but I did want to just point it out, how this kind of gets carried out by the police department. The police department will utilize decibel readers. They have those DBA and DBC readers that they can come out with. They get an initial complaint. A warning is typically given on that initial complaint, and they ask the property owner, resident, manager to address the noise issue if it is indeed in violation. And then upon a second visit or a second complaint, a fine would be issued to the property owner. And this, each day that this goes on is a separate occurrence. So the fine is up to $250 per occurrence.
And just because a complaint is filed, if it's found not to be in violation, there would be no warning or citation issued.
Mm-hmm. Right. Something else that's new, proposed in this ordinance is chronic noise or chronic noise producers. This allows for the chief of police to designate what is called a chronic noise producer. And that would be some person or business that basically is constantly going over noise levels and constantly out of compliance with the ordinance. That chronic noise producer would then be referred to the city manager's office to create a noise mitigation plan. If they are not cooperative in that, they can appeal to the Board of Commissioners, and then after that to district court. And there would be a civil penalty of up to $1,000 per day for someone who is in noncompliance and then found to be in noncompliance after appeal. So basically, the chief of police has several different things that he would take into consideration before he would actually categorize someone as a chronic noise producer. And you might be looking at something like a large manufacturing plant that is constantly outside of our decibel readings. That's something that you might think of when you're thinking of chronic noise. And then special event variances, we already do these from time to time. You might think of Lowertown Art and Music Festival. We've done different things since they set up in a residential zone and have music. The only real changes to this are going to be that currently those requests for variances go to the city manager's office, but there was really no appeal process Our city attorney advised that we did need an appeal process, so those will now go to the city clerk's office for review, and then any appeal to those decisions would go to the city manager's office. So this is just kind of a summary of what we've just talked about, of what major changes we're looking at in this proposed ordinance as it stands today. So adding the DBC for measuring noise generated by music and keeping DBA for everything else. Lowering the general noise level from 65 to 60 most days and times, except for those Sunday through Wednesday, 5 to 11, and Thursday through Saturday, 1 to 11, and holidays. And then extending the hours for noise to be up to 75 decibels to 11 p.m. on Thursday and Saturday, whereas it's 9 p.m. currently. So it kind of is lowering it on one end of the spectrum to have a little bit more quiet during most of the day and then overnight, and then raising it to 75 to allow for those weekend kind of events that give us kind of that vibrant downtown and vibrant community where we want to have, music outside and that kind of thing. And then limiting outdoor sound amplification is a large change at commercial establishments to only those specific hours that we talked about. Updating language to make the ordinance more enforceable and less ambiguous. So we had the language in there about any sound was unacceptable if it was if it annoyed a person of ordinary sensibilities, and that piece was very hard to determine what that means exactly. So taking out that kind of ambiguous language and making it a little bit more straightforward. And then the new section on chronic noise. Those are kind of our major changes that we're looking at in this draft. So with that, I will take any questions. If I can't answer it, I'm sure city manager, police department, city attorney, someone will be able to answer, but happy to answer anything you all have.
I just like to make a comment. There's an enormous amount of work that's gone in this, and it shows, and you did a good job explaining it, which is complicated, and I appreciate the work that's gone into this, because I know it wasn't easy.
I'll just reiterate, this is the first reading of this, and we welcome input, and we will be listening to people in the next couple of weeks. We don't have a set date yet on it, and happy to listen to everyone.
Yeah, I personally, I know we've all gotten phone calls from this, and I don't think any of us know. Darren did the best he could to explain C and A and B, and I would just like to go with Drew and see the stuff. Drew and I go back, and I personally, I would just like to get a hands-on and see. I've been downtown probably 90% of the nights just for the past 3 months.
Yeah,
And I appreciate all the work. I'm not questioning any of the work that's been done.
No, and you make a good point, Commissioner, and I would suggest that any of the commission, reach out to the police department. That's the actual official gauge that they will be using, our equipment that they'll be using, go with them and see, out there on that, because, because that is the official equipment that our police department will be using to measure it. I think it would be, advisable for any of the members of the commission that would like to do that, and you can reach out to our police department, and we can facilitate getting those type of meetings set up.
I just want to reiterate that I think that the work that has been done is outstanding. And I would, from this point to the time that we have the second reading and vote, I do hope that we can be a little more involved in the process. Because for me, it has been at best sketchy to understand everything that's going on, to understand all sides of the argument. And so I'm glad that we're not voting for it tonight, because I would have some real issues with voting for it tonight. But I think it's well put together. I have asked, I think early on, I did ask to be a part of the process when there were decibel readings, And I'm sure with all that's been going on, it's just slipped by, but I've not been invited to be involved in that. And I would like to be involved in it, so I could understand better
Yes.
what all of this means. This is not my everyday job.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff goes over my head, and I just want to have a handle on it before we actually vote to replace this. I just want to make sure that I know what I'm replacing.
Any other?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okey dokey. We'll move, we have one discussion item, and it's a quarterly grants update from Hope Reasons. Oh.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, City Manager, City Clerk. I do not have a PowerPoint tonight, but you all do have two reports in your packet toward the back. One is for the third quarter of 23-24, and then the other is a year-to-date report. So I'm going to start with the third quarter report. During the third quarter, we submitted 5 grant applications, those totaling $1.5 million, $1,533,906. Of those submitted, the required match for those would be $216,580. We received one grant award during last quarter. That was the CDBG Recovery Grant for Four Rivers, their alcohol and drug treatment program. The Tree City one was on here a little bit by error. It came in a little bit after, but we did get the Tree City Award again. There's no money with that, but it is 32 consecutive years that we have received the Tree City Award from the Arbor Day Foundation. Currently, as far as active grants go, we are managing $19,955,066 on our current grants. The match for those grants is $1,753,019. Moving on to our year-to-date, do you all have any questions on that quarterly report? No? Okay. Then moving on to year-to-date. Year-to-date, we have submitted 21 grant applications. The total for that is $9,453,180. The match on those grants is $1,984,363. Of the grants we have submitted, we've received notification on 10 of those grants. We have received 8 of them, and 2 of them we did not receive. Of those that we have received was a Department of Justice JAG grant for $11,554, a USTA Southern grant for $1,000, a Game Time Playgrounds grant for $37,585, the CDBG grant that was $200,000, a KLC liability grant for $3,000, and then a KLC safety grant for $3,000. And then you'll also approve tonight the most recent one that was actually fallen into this quarter for the Department of Waste Management composting grant for $605,000. So our total grant amount awarded for this year so far is $861,210. The match on that is $239,275. The only real, do you all have any questions on the year-to-date?
Pretty good return on our money.
It is. The amount that we get for our match, it's a very good return. And will continue to be if some of these other grants come in over the next few months. Like Joseph mentioned in his presentation, sometimes it takes a minute to get those back and find out about them.
Mr. Henderson, did you have something?
I had a question for the Game Time Playgrounds, but it's probably a question for Amy in the Parks Department.
Okay.
So I'll just wait and maybe ask her.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. I just have one announcement tonight that I want to talk about, and that is our Greenway Trail project, Greenway Trail and Bike Lanes. If you all will recall, we do receive a technical assistance grant from the National Park Service on helping us determine that overall master plan for expanding our Greenway Trail, looking at different bike lanes, how we can, help improve connectedness and safety and things like that. And we have 2 community meetings coming up to get public feedback. And that's really important. That's something we really need and want, is to have community members come in and share their thoughts with us on the Greenway, particularly like expanding it through the south side, adding bike lanes, amenities, things like that they would like to see about using the Greenway Trail. We've got a lot of questions about that. So we have 2 different events coming up. The first one is going to be Tuesday, June 4th at 5:30 p.m. at Community Financial Services Bank, or CFSB, on the south side on Irvin Cobb Drive. And then we have a second one coming up on Thursday, June 6th. So these are right around the corner. The second one is also at 5:30 p.m. in the evening, and it will be at the Paducah Recreation Center on Martin Luther King Drive. So we are really trying to get the word out and get people to come in. We're also doing some different focus groups with some local community groups to get feedback on the Greenway Trail as well. So hopefully we will get some really good, we've got surveys that'll also be coming out on June 4th, and all of this information is on the City of Paducah website that people can go and find.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the Greenway Trail project's a large multi-year project, but it's critical that we get community involvement and community input on what we do and how we go about it. So I would urge everybody, there's been lots of publicity about it, plenty of opportunities for people to see, to understand when the meetings are. So I would just urge anybody that has any interest at all to try to attend one of those meetings.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions?
Questions for Hope?
Good job.
Nope.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right, I had one oversight. I need to apologize. We had one other person that wanted to make a public comment, and I somehow just missed it. So, Blake, my apologies. If you'd like to.
That was on purpose.
No, it was not on
Actually, you
purpose.
missed me too. Crystal Galloway? Sorry.
Man. All right. If I did, I stand corrected.
My name is Blake Calhoun. I'm a city resident. I'm representing Over Under and Stella's. I'll be really brief because I know we've all kind of got to go over it now. We are in support of a reasonable noise ordinance. We really are. We want to be a part of that process and try to help with that if we can. We believe that as proposed, this won't be achievable, and that's kind of our main concern. We were unable to get a reading of sorry, how did I say that? We couldn't achieve a reading under 60 in a quiet room. Now, we're using a phone meter, we're not using the police meter, and that may be different. But the ambient noise, I don't know when they took those measurements. During the day, say 11 in the morning, the ambient noise downtown is 70 to 75 decibels. And that's just traffic and people talking, and I'm talking no music. I think it would be important to put in there how long the measurement is taken for. I didn't see any language in there about that. And then, are you taking an average? Are you taking peaks, and how they're measuring that? I think that there's a clause in there that says speakers can't be mounted above 10 feet, which I think is also unreasonable. We try to get them up under our awnings so that they're not visible and they're out of the rain, and so they kind of have to be above 10 feet in that instance. Obviously, the speakers being prohibited during normal business hours, we think is an oversight. We think that, normal business hours, there should be allowed to have that ambient type music that we do. Eating in a quiet restaurant is really uncomfortable because you can kind of hear everybody's conversations, and that music just sort of drowns everything out. And if it was 75 decibels, that would be very uncomfortable to your ears. But you got to be a little bit over 60 or else you just can't hear it. I do think putting stuff in there, the holidays, Small Business Saturday is one that could get overlooked. So I would put something in there about that for special events and exceptions for that sort of thing. And then I think that, most buildings downtown specifically are commercial on the first floor and residential above. And so being able to measure it could get a little tricky with those common walls and, floor ceiling situations with the residents versus the commercial. And then again, we're in support of it. We want to be a part of the process. So if we could get a group together to, share our comments, we would be in favor of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, I found it. I'm sorry. I was not picking on you. I missed two of them, so I don't know. Crystal Galloway.
Yes, hello, my name's Crystal Galloway. Thank you for listening to me speak. I know everybody's tired and ready to go and ready to eat. But I just wanted to say, for me, it feels like a little bit of entitlement going on here, because you say you have maybe 120 to 140 condos downtown, right? Residents. But you're putting that against 500,000 people in the tri-state area who come to Paducah for entertainment, for nightlife. And people with money can travel. When they want to let their hair down and go party, they can go to Nashville. They can go to New York. They can go to Paris. People who don't have money are kind of limited to Paducah for their options. And some people want to be able to stay out and go to a bar that stays up until 3 a.m., especially the servers like Amanda had said, who work until midnight, and that's the only time they get to go out and let their hair down. And, we have a lot of young people who are leaving Paducah because of things like this, lack of nightlife, lack of entertainment, lack of opportunities, So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, that this affects a lot more people than just necessarily the downtown area. And I'd like to make sure we keep that all in mind. So thank you for letting me talk for a few minutes.
Crystal, can I ask you, what's your connection? Are you a city resident?
I'm just a resident of Paducah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, not a business owner?
Not a business owner at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal. Okay, comments from city manager?
The only thing I would like to mention is, as we all know, this past weekend, the area, the region suffered quite a bit of damage in our neighboring communities, and, our hearts are going to those that were impacted. I did get a call requesting our support to one of those communities. They actually came through the fire chief from Hopkins County, and we did send a crew to go and help on that. And so I just wanted to acknowledge the work of our department staff that came back in. A lot of them had to come back in to go and help late in the night, through the night, and work through that. So I just wanted to not only acknowledge the heartbreak that's going on in some of those communities that have been hit, twice, especially in Dawson Springs area, back to back, but also to thank our team members that rose to the occasion to help out.
Great, thank you. Comments from commissioners? Okay, we are going to have an executive session tonight, so I ask the city clerk to please read.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topics: issues which might lead to the appointment, dismissal, or disciplining of an employee or officer as permitted by KRS 61.8101F.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.
And for our viewers at home, we do anticipate there will be action coming out of executive session tonight. please.
So, no.
I'm going to call us back into order and ask the city clerk to read the motion.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners that having received an ethics complaint, the City Commission has determined that there is no standing under the provisions of KRS. Furthermore, since the Board of Ethics is charged with the investigation of such complaint in strict confidence, the Board of Commissioners and staff cannot comment on this matter until the investigation is concluded, so as not to prejudice the investigation by the Board of Ethics.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson?
Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye.
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 Thank
Roll
you.
call. All right, thank you. We're adjourned. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.